The Invention of Lying movie review. So this is another one of my scripted movie review series in which I go back over an old review I wrote on the weblog years ago and try and make a YouTube video out of it for whatever that may or may not be worth. This movie came out in 2009. I was living in Japan in 2009, and back in those days, I don't think they do this anymore, but back in those days they used to stagger the release of movies. So it didn't actually come out in Japan, it got a delayed release. So I wasn't able to see it at the time, but I used to watch a lot of Daily Show and other Comedy Central shows on the internet. Back in those days, you could watch them on Comedy Central's website. I think nowadays everything's moved over to YouTube. I don't know if they still have it on Comedy Central's website anymore. It's been years since I actually even checked to see if they still had a website anymore. I just watch everything off of YouTube nowadays. Anyways, back when I used to watch all these shows off of Comedy Central's website, they used to be supported by ads, and the ad for The Invention of Lying throughout the year of 2009, for whatever reason, just ran continuously. Like this ad was shown in front of everything on the Comedy Central website. So I got very inundated with the ad, but it looked interesting to me, and I wanted to check it out. So when I was back in the US in the winter of 2010, I got this out of the video store and I checked it out, and here I am with my review. So the premise of the movie, which you're no doubt familiar with if you've seen any of the marketing, although it's 10 years old now, so maybe you haven't seen it or you've forgotten about it. Premise of the movie is, it's a world where no one can tell a lie. People are just incapable of telling lies. And so it starts off with just what is daily life like in this world. You know, a cop pulls you over and you tell him exactly what you were doing wrong. You're watching TV and they don't have any fictionalized dramas because fiction is a form of lies. So it's just an historian reporting some historical event, and that's the TV in this world, and etc. It's just a very interesting look at what the world would be like if no one could tell a lie. It makes you think how much of human society is actually completely dependent on people lying all the time. So there's a little bit of philosophy kind of underlying what they're doing there. But it's mostly entertaining, pretty cute, not brilliant, but pretty entertaining. Also, I was not expecting this from the previews, but this film has tons of cameo celebrities in it. Like a bunch of Ricky Gervais comedian friends helped out with this film. So there's also a little bit of spot the celebrity cameo. You're like, ah, that guy, or ah, I know who that is, that kind of thing. Then the film takes a rather dramatic turn to satirizing religion, which I was not expecting at all. Like this was not in the previews for this film at all, at least the ones I saw. They, for whatever reason, they kind of hid this bit. But the middle part of the film is actually a fairly biting, fairly devastating, in my opinion, critique of religion. So, spoilers, I guess. Ricky Gervais, the main character in this film, or the actor who plays the main character, he's discovered how to lie. He's the only one in this world who's discovered how to lie. And his mother is dying, and his mother is afraid of death. And he tells her, it's okay, you don't go into nothingness. You go into this very happy place where everybody you've ever loved is there waiting for you and everything's wonderful. And he just tells us to his mother to comfort her at the time of her death. And because nobody can lie in this world, everybody assumes that whatever you're telling them is true. And so not only does this bring comfort to his mother, but all the doctors who are in the room get really interested in what he's saying. And it was a very visceral demonstration of how much religion works as wish fulfillment and perhaps a reenactment of how religion started in the first place, as this kind of wish fulfillment given to comfort dying people. I mean, who knows how the first tales of the afterlife started, but it's a plausible explanation as any. You know, we all know, I think we've all heard the argument from atheists that religion is just wish fulfillment, but seeing it dramatized in this way did lend it some power. I was watching this movie actually with my mom, you know, she said to me a couple years later, I remember watching that movie and just seeing how he was telling his mom everything she wanted to know just at that moment. And it really had an impact on her in terms of her view of how religion could just be wish fulfillment. And she's somebody who's been going to church all her life. Me, I'm an agnostic, and I don't want to get too much into my own personal history. But just to say I'm an agnostic, meaning I have days when I think religion could be plausible, and I have days when I think religion could be implausible. But I'm very sympathetic to critiques of religion, and I think this is a good one. After he's created this idea of heaven, he gets just flocked with people, and they're all asking him questions about what heaven is like. And he's giving out answers, and as he's giving out answers, they're catching him in the logical inconsistencies of what he's saying. I mean, nobody doubts what he's saying because in this world you can't lie, but they're finding all the problems with what he's saying, and it's very funny, and also a good critique of some of the logical implausibilities of religion. So I thought that was very good. And then they kept asking him, how do you know all this? And he said, well, because the man in the sky told me. Which is, again, very simplistic, and yet when it comes down to it, isn't that what all religion is based on? I mean, I know there's centuries of Christian theologians and Thomas Aquinas and Martin Luther and John Calvin and all this sophisticated theology that's built up, but ultimately, isn't it all based on the man in the sky told me? I mean, you know, not John Calvin. He didn't claim to personally get revelation from God. But he's basing his theology on the fact that somebody way back in the 1st century AD was saying, the man in the sky told me this. Essentially, all the religious theology that's built up on over the years, the centuries, just goes back to the man in the sky told me. So I thought all that was very well done. And if the film had just stuck with that, it would have been brilliant. It was going so well. It was flirting with brilliance. But then they went back to this sappy love story. And then it just became another romantic comedy. And that was so unfortunate because that romantic comedy was so boring. I guess the thing with this movie is it's really 3 movies in one. One, it's an examination of what the world would look like if nobody could tell a lie. And that's moderately interesting. 2, it's a critique of religion. And here I thought it was quite brilliant. And 3, it's a romantic comedy. And as a romantic comedy, it's so boring. And the pity is that the last, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes or so of this movie just goes to the romantic comedy part. I imagine this was to keep the studios happy. I don't know. That's just speculation on my part. But it's a shame because at this point, things just get really boring. So a movie which flirted with genius, but was dragged down by the stupid romantic comedy aspect of it.